If I want to find the values of sine, cosine, and tangent for the following angles, the first one is pi over 3. Theta equals pi over 3. So pi over 3 is in the first quadrant. The sine of pi over 3 is equal to the square root of 3 over 2. The cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. Tangent, y'all know, is sine over cosine, or hopefully you know, or if you don't know, now you know. Tangent is sine over cosine. So tangent of pi over 3, we take the value of sine, we put it over the value of cosine. Okay, y'all already kind of have a table of this on the other side. Hopefully you've filled that out correctly. We've got a fraction divided by a fraction, so the top one stays the same. We flip the bottom one over and multiply, so the 2's cancel. So the tangent of pi over 3 is equal to the square root of 3. Okay, we've got to know radians as well as degrees. So 135 degrees, okay, the sine of 135. Let me go through the thought process that I go through so that I can show you how you really do only need to know the first quadrant. 135 degrees has a reference angle of 45 degrees. So I know sine and cosine are both going to be square root 2 over 2. Now the question is, are they both positive? Which one's negative? Okay. 135 is in the second quadrant. So x values are negative, y values are positive. So that means cosine is negative, sine is positive. Tangent is sine over cosine. So if we put square root 2 over 2 over negative square root 2 over 2, we're going to get negative 1. Same thing over its negative is just negative 1. All right, 210 degrees. Okay, 210 degrees. Again, obviously, I know you can look right at your unit circle, but what if you don't have a unit circle in front of you? Here's what I go through. 210 is 30 degrees beyond 180. So it's the same as 30 degrees, which is the same as pi over 6. So the sine is 1/2. The cosine is square root 3 over 2. In the third quadrant here, x's are negative and y's are negative. So both of these are negative. And we have already done this for tangent. Put 1/2, or no, we haven't. Did I get that backwards? No. Is that what I had up here? Oh, I did pi over 3 up there. My bad, not pi over 6. Okay. Tangent is sine over cosine, so we've got negative 1/2 over negative square root 3 over 2. So we can ignore the negatives. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Flip the bottom one over. The 2's cancel, but this is 1 over the square root of 3. We need to rationalize, so we multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. So we've got the square root of 3 over 3. Is the tangent of 210. Okay, now you do have your calculator, okay, and you will have your calculator on the final exam. So let me show you kind of how you can check. This is degrees, so I need to be in degree mode in my calculator. If I'm checking the tangent, it's going to give me a decimal when I type this in. But if I'm just checking my answer, then I type in square root 3 over 3 and see if those decimal values match up, okay? I do not want the decimal value when you're giving it to me, but you can use this to check your decimal values. Okay, let's keep going. 11 pi over 6. Okay, again, I know you can look right at your unit circle, okay, but I want you to think through the logic here. 11 pi over 6 means that pi over 6 is its reference angle. Okay, the denominators are always the same. I need to locate which quadrant that's in. 11 is a little bit short of 12 over 6, so that's almost all the way around. So we're in the fourth quadrant. So for pi over 6, Sine is, did I get the last one mixed up? Sine. Okay, yeah, both of these are 30. Okay, both of these are 30. I am not focusing well here. Okay, x's are positive, so it's positive square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. Okay, positive square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. Okay, so the tangent is going to be the same as the previous one, except it's going to be negative square root of 3 over 3. All right, now, negative angles. Negative angles tend to throw people for a little bit of a loop. So let me kind of talk through two different ways to figure this out. The easiest way, if you're looking at the unit circle, is to find the positive version of that angle. So find positive pi over 4, and you go straight down. Okay, so negative pi over 4 is the same as, let's see here, that would be 7 pi over 4. Okay, you find the positive pi over 4 and you go straight below it to 7 pi over 4. That is exactly the same as negative pi over 4. So if you struggle with the negative angles, that's one way that you can do it. If, say, let's say you've got negative 5 pi over 4. Okay, negative 5 pi over 4. Go to positive 5 pi over 4, which is in the third quadrant. So that's below. You just go straight above. Okay, it's always straight down or straight up if you're trying to use that method. Okay. But anyways, moral of the story. Yeah, no problem. Okay, pi over 4, that's the easy one. Sine and cosine always have the same value. Square root 2 over 2. We are in the fourth quadrant, so positive x's, cosine is positive, negative y's, sine is negative. So tangent of negative pi over 4, they are the same number. One of them is negative, so it's negative 1. Okay, so negative 240 degrees. Okay, find positive 240 degrees. That would be in the third quadrant and go directly above it. So negative 240 is the same as what? 120. Okay, 120 is the same as 240. We're in the second, or excuse me, negative 240. So we're in the second quadrant with a reference angle of 60 degrees. So my x is 1/2. Cosine's going to be 1/2, negative 1/2, right? And sine is going to be positive square root 3 over 2. Tangent will be negative. In this case, the square root of 3 is on the top, so we're not going to have to rationalize. The 2's are just going to cancel, so it's just negative square root of 3. All right, pretty simple, right? And you got the unit circle in front of you. You really just have to use it. Huh? What? Which one?
Like, wait. We don't understand where you're getting the numbers from. Like the sine and the cosine, like we don't.
They're the points. The x is cosine. The sine is x is cosine. Sine is y. I'm sorry. I thought y'all knew that already.
Wait, and then how are you getting tangent?
Tangent is sine over cosine. Sine over cosine. So you take the number for sine and you put it over the number for cosine. Okay, thank you for letting me do 6 examples and then tell me you didn't know what was going on the first one. Thanks. Yes. Yes, the x coordinate is the cosine, the y is sine. I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought y'all already knew that. Okay. You get it now? Okay. I'm sorry. My bad. Is there something else we need to know? Okay, so yeah, that's what goes in those blanks down there. The x is cosine, the y is sine, tangent is sine over cosine. Okay. I thought y'all were really, really quiet. Anyways, okay. So we're good. We're good with this. The sine, cosine, tangent. Okay, because there are actually 6 trig ratios that you've got to be familiar with. Okay, we already know the first 3: sine, cosine, tangent. Okay, we know sine, cosine, and tangent. What pre-cal adds to that are what we call the reciprocal trig functions. Okay, sine, cosine, and tangent you've dealt with in Math 2, Math 3. You probably have not seen, I don't think you've seen, these other 3. 1 over the sine is equal to cosecant. Okay, 1 over the sine is equal to cosecant. It's the reciprocal, so it flips over. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. Cosine, its reciprocal trig function is secant. It's the hypotenuse over the adjacent. Tangent's reciprocal is cotangent. That one's easy to remember. Okay. The way that I remember the other 2 is the cos never match up. Okay. Sine and cosecant, cosine and secant. Okay. It's not cosine and cosecant. Cos do not go together. Sine goes with cosecant, cosine goes with secant, tangent goes with cotangent. So if you're asked,